engineer Ed Smiley advised his team of the situation and said, in effect, "Here's what's available on the space capsule. Figure something out." Fortunately, the ground crew was able to meet the challenge, quickly cobbling together a crude filter substitute out of a plastic bag, a cardboard box, some duct tape, and a sock. The lives of the 3 astronauts were saved. As one of them, Jim Lovell, later recalled, "The contraption wasn't very handsome, but it worked." Not every kludge saves lives. Engineers sometimes devise them for sport, just to show that something, say building a computer out of tinker toys, can be done, or simply because they're too lazy to do something the right way. Others cobble together kludges out of a mixture of desperation and resourcefulness, like the TV character MacGyver, who, needing to make a quick getaway, Jerry built a pair of shoes from duct tape and rubber mats. Other kludges are created just for laughs, like Wallace and Gromit's launch and activate alarm clock coffee maker Murphy bed, and Rube Goldberg's simplified pencil sharpener. A kite attached to a string lifts a door which allows moths to escape, culminating in the lifting of a cage which frees a woodpecker to gnaw the wood that surrounds a pencil's graphite core. MacGyver's shoes and Rube Goldberg's pencil sharpeners are nothing, though, compared to perhaps the most fantastic kludge of them all. The human mind, a quirky yet magnificent product of the entirely blind process of evolution. The origin and even the spelling of the word kludge is up for grabs. Some spell it with a D, Kludge, which has the virtue of looking as clumsy as the solutions it denotes, but the disadvantage of suggesting the wrong pronunciation. Properly pronounced, kludge rhymes with huge, not sludge. One could argue that the spelling Klooge rhymes with stooge would even better capture the pronunciation, but I'm not about to foist a third spelling upon the world. Some trace the word to the old Scottish word kluge, which means an outside toilet. Most believe the origins lie in the German word kluge, which means clever. The Hacker's Dictionary of Computer Jargon traces the term back at least to 1935, to a kludge brand paper feeder, described as an adjunct to mechanical printing presses. The kludge feeder was designed before small, cheap electric motors and control electronics. It relied on a fiendishly complex assortment of cams, belts, and linkages to both power and synchronize all its operations from one motive drive shaft. It was accordingly temperamental, subject to frequent breakdowns, and devilishly difficult to repair, but oh so clever. Virtually everybody agrees that the term was first popularized in February 1962 in an article titled "How to Design a Kludge," written tongue-in-cheek by a computer pioneer named Jackson Granholm, who defined a kludge as an ill-assorted collection of poorly matching parts forming a distressing whole. He went on to note that the building of a kludge is not work for amateurs. There is a certain indefinable masochistic finesse that must go into true kludge building. The professional can spot it instantly. The amateur may readily presume that that's the way computers are. The engineering world is filled with kludges. Consider, for example, something known as vacuum-powered windshield wipers, common in most cars until the early 1960s. Modern windshield wipers, like most gizmos on cars, are driven by electricity. But back in the olden days, cars ran on 6 volts rather than 12. Barely enough power to keep the spark plugs going, and certainly not enough to power luxuries like windshield wipers. So some clever engineer rigged up a kludge that powered windshield wipers with suction, drawn from the engine rather than electricity. The only problem is that the amount of suction created by the engine varies, depending on how hard the engine is working. The harder it works, the less vacuum it produces, which meant that when you drove your 1958 Buick Riviera up a hill or accelerated hard, your wipers slowed to a crawl or even stopped working altogether. On a rainy day in the mountains, Grandpa was out of luck. What's really amazing in hindsight is that most people probably didn't even realize it was possible to do better. And this, I think, is a great metaphor for our everyday acceptance of the idiosyncrasies of the human mind. The mind is inarguably impressive, a lot better than any available alternative, but it's still flawed, often in ways we scarcely recognize.